False white light. The false matrix is negative alien technology that has created a complex architecture that creates a false white light webbing that also have fake holographic realities inserted around our planet. It is designed to harness vital force energy and to send fake information through about rituals, fake light beings to call upon, fake alien information, fake ascension information such as don't look at the dark, just focus on the light, etc., in order to connect more people up to this false white light, and is also used for mind control to suppress the awakening process. Words such as light worker can trigger someone to go searching for a connection to the universe and other star beings, and unless they first find a connection to themselves, then the only place to look for connection with the universe and other star beings is through looking out there. If someone doesn't find a connection with themselves first, they cannot find a connection to the universe, and without both a connection to yourself and the universe, the star beings that you will attract will be not the ones you were hoping for. This is why the false white light webbing was created, to give people something external to connect with. Once connected, you are then inserted with holographic inserts that keep you living in a delusion that creates complacency and fake happiness, that keeps you only looking at the light so you can't see what's feeding off you in the darkness. Now, this particular subject can be a hard one for some people, especially if they have been caught up in the white light webbing. Even the word ascension makes it sound like we are going up. We're going up somewhere. Ascending sounds like we're going up, where that particular word and that concept in the spiritual New Age community, it's making it sound as though we're going somewhere outside of this beautiful, amazing earth. Now, we are in a fake matrix, so the earth isn't the same way as it's supposed to be, but we're not actually leaving anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're not going up. What I believe is happening right now is an evolutionary process. We're evolving, but we are quantum leaping in that evolutionary process. Now, we're not going anywhere. We are learning to access more and more parts of ourselves, and we're learning to access different dimensional aspects of ourselves. So that's where I think the ascension sort of stuff is trying to lead people into a false sense of reality, that either something's going to come and save us, or we're going to just wake up one day and be in a fifth dimensional world, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that we just carry on and let everything be the way it is, and then just one day we poof, wake up in a different space. It's not how it's going to happen. I truly believe, and like I always say, take what you believe and resonates with you. Make sure you're filtering all of this through your own truth system. But I see it as an evolutionary process. We're evolving, and we're going through a massive, massive, massive quickening process in that. So it's basically we're going through this massive quantum leap, and we're learning to not only remember who we are, but in that process, we're supposed to be looking into our own shadows and clearing up what's been holding us back from seeing our own light. It doesn't make sense to me that we just carry on the way that we are, and then all of a sudden one day something magic happens and we're in a different space and different dimension, and we all just lose our shit. It just doesn't make sense. You can see when you look around at the people who you look up to, and that might be because they are living their passion, they're living in alignment, they're doing their purpose, and in that you might be inspired by them. Now, what you're inspired by is that they've evolved through their own shit to allow themselves to find the light within, and then let that guiding light be what guides them forward. Now, that person hasn't gone anywhere, but they are actually accessing higher aspects of themselves, and they are actually accessing different dimensional spaces within the same reality as you and I exist in. So we are evolving. We're moving through an incredible shift through such a dense existence. When you think about 50 years ago, just 50 years ago, have a look what was going on 50 years ago. Have a look at women's rights. Have a look at the way that things were done on this planet. so much has happened in 50 years. And now that same amount that happened in 50 years is happening within only a year. There's so much movement. There's there's a quickening process. Now, because the frequencies are rising so high, that is what's creating that quickening process. 50 years ago, the frequencies on Earth were so dense. They were so dense. You would have to go and sit on a mountaintop in Peru and meditate for 20 years to be able to access and actually get through all the dense frequencies to access higher frequencies. Now we don't have to do that. The frequencies that are beaming down on us, that are actually shaking all our cells awake, that's actually doing the job for us now. The frequencies are making us, they're pushing us. The frequencies are pushing our cells, shaking our cells. All of our shit is coming up to be dealt with. Our consciousness got to a point where there was no other way but to start clearing out the shadow, to start clearing out and flushing out the stuff that is holding back our light. But unfortunately, because we do live in a reality that's been hacked, all of the negative alien technology has been used in order to try and keep those frequencies from waking us up. So TVs, Wi-Fi, all of the technology, not to mention the HARP and all the negative alien technology that is etheric sort of stuff, it's all designed to try and derail us, because these frequencies are taking us into this amazing evolution. These frequencies are evolving us. But all the other negative frequencies are now also being bombarded on us. So now at the moment, there are these frequencies, light and dark, and we're feeling them all. We're all going through this incredible process. Now, the problem is, if we don't actively start looking in the dark and clearing stuff up, we're actually perpetuating these energies, just battling to try and, have one little seed sprout and one little seed sprout here. And that's what's happening to our consciousness right now. We're all spread out. We're all kind of trying to grow through the concrete, little tiny seeds, plants that are trying to grow through all this concrete. So it can be quite draining, and I know that everybody who's watching this would feel quite drained at soul level. It's been a massive process, but we are still evolving. We cannot get away from doing the inner work. Otherwise, we're just going to keep perpetuating. And what we do by perpetuating the cleanup of our own shadow is we keep propping up this fake white light. We keep propping it up and giving it power. So basically, the false white light webbing is designed to try and, if anyone wakes up and they start looking and trying to connect outside of themselves because they haven't connected in, people that connect outside of themselves, the fake white webbing is there in order to catch them, basically. So basically, the fake white light webbing is there as a trap. So if somebody wakes up to the truth of who they are and looks outside of themselves for connection, then they're going to get caught in the web. If this scans up, then we're able to help with the disconnection process, and this will allow the person to connect with themselves to be able to find a deeper truth, if they choose. Otherwise, they may choose to reconnect due to the temptation of avoiding shadow and connecting with themselves deeply. So basically, doing a clearing like this, if someone has been connected to the fake white light webbing, doing a clearing allows them to connect back with themselves and allows them to tap into their own truth. But they may choose to reconnect to the fake white light in order to avoid doing shadow work. And I find a lot of people do choose this. They can get really caught up in the spiritual wank, and they might be somebody who wears all the right clothes. They might do yoga every day. They might be vegan. They might do their this and then that and the journaling and they might do all of these things. But then what happens is they become extremely judgmental, because they kind of get this ego complex where if you're not doing yoga and if you're not vegan, then you can't be spiritual. Or if you're a smoker, then you can't be spiritual. Or if you do this, you can't be spiritual. You have to do this, this and this. And that traps them straight away into that fake white webbing, and they're getting fed off as well. So basically, it's just a way, it's a funnel. It's a way to kind of, if somebody comes up and awakens, then they can be funneled off this way to be fed off again. It's only those who are able to really go into discernment, who are able to navigate and start avoiding that. Some people get caught in the fake white webbing, and they get themselves out because they start to feel and see and sense all the different bullshit that goes on there, and they pull themselves out. But sometimes they do that and then they get burnt from anything spiritual. So sometimes if someone gets caught in the fake white webbing, they pull themselves out and then they feel burnt, and they don't go searching for anything in that way again. And that, once again, creates some sort of trauma within them that doesn't make them want to connect or believe in anything higher than themselves. So it can really derail people in many ways. They can get caught in there, or they can get caught in there and then pull themselves out, but then get burnt from really discovering the truth of the universe and the truth of who they are. It's really important we respect people's choices for their own soul's evolution, and we remember no one needs saving. They just need educating so they have the ability or option to make better choices if they choose. So this is really important to really remember. No one needs saving. I really think that education is really important, and this is the reason why I'm, really putting so much energy into this particular course, because I think people like yourself going out there and not only clearing people but really educating people is the best thing that we can do, because that gives people really good options. It gives them the options, because once they have a frame of reference, once they start to understand how negative energy works, it allows them to make an educated choice. It allows them to tune into themselves and make a better choice. Now, this doesn't mean that people aren't going to choose to go back and just plug straight back into the fake white light, but it does mean that they've always got a frame of reference, a blueprint, and they will, at one point or another, have something happen that makes them realize the truth of what you've said, and they will come back to that blueprint. I truly believe it. But without any options, more and more people will get stuck in the fake white light webbing, and they'll stay there. So people like you and I, it's our job just to educate, not convince, just educate. Give them a different option. Never get invested in someone else's choices, because their soul has its own plan, its own evolutionary cycle and process and timing. So not everyone's designed to wake up at the same time. We are designed intricately to be able to navigate in a way that allows us to experience what we're here to experience. And sometimes that doesn't even mean that that person will awake in this particular lifetime. Some people will stay asleep this lifetime. Not everybody's going to wake up to the truth of who they are. Everyone who is a divine being on this planet has the option to, but not everyone will make the choice. And that's okay. From soul level, that actually is really okay. So at the end of the day, what's going to make you the absolute best at what you do is if you can detach from the results in your clients. When you're able to do a reading and clearing like this, and then you're able to detach from the outcome for that person, you will really empower that person to make the best choices for them without any attachments. If we're attached to the results for clients, or if we're attached to them making the right choices and we worry about them making the choices, we literally create energetic cords, and then we add to the problem and we create issues for ourselves. This work really, really needs you to detach from all results for clients. I cannot stress that enough. If you're able to do that, if you really are able to do that, you will find your results increase so much just by letting go of the attachment to any outcome, and especially to your clients making choices. If you've done a reading for them and they choose to continue doing the negative things, creating the negative things, you really have to honor their choices. Now, it's different if they want to keep coming back over and over and over again and they're still not listening, you can decide when enough is enough and that you don't want to have a client who doesn't listen and take, action. But you might decide that that's okay because that person is coming to you to get clearing regularly, and maybe that's just what they want, and that's okay for you if that's your truth. But I particularly don't like to work with people if they keep coming back over and over again and they're not implementing or listening to any of the wisdom. I find that I get drained by clients like this, so I just don't work with them. So it's up to you to find your truth in this, but I do encourage you to really, really look at who do you want to work with. Attaching mechanisms. Trying to connect to something outside of yourself. So without a solid connection to yourself, you're always going to be looking for something outside of yourself for connection and validation. Without a solid relationship with yourself, you have no way of knowing what's fake and what's real, and this can allow all kinds of attachments and interference, this being one of them. So the attaching mechanism is looking for anything outside of yourself. And unfortunately, that's one of the biggest issues that we have right now, is that a lot of people don't have a solid connection to themselves. And a lot of people go looking for the answers outside of themselves. So this is when this particular energy can really swoop in and give people what they're looking for, and the sensations and feelings of connection, connecting to certain things, connecting to certain fake light beings. It gives them what they're looking for. But unfortunately, it also allows them to be fed off and also completely kept in the dark of what's really going on inside of their own energy body. It's so important that we actually know ourselves. If we don't connect and know ourselves, there's no way that we're ever going to have the discernment to navigate this reality. To be able to really know what is fake and what's not fake, or what's right for you and what's not right for you, it all comes down to knowing yourself first. Unfortunately, it's not taught at school. Unfortunately, our parents 99% of the time didn't teach us this either, because they came from a space that was even worse and more disconnected. We're learning to connect to who we are. So crazy, but true. So through this learning process of learning to get to know ourselves, it actually has to be an important thing to you in order to do, because it doesn't just happen naturally. So dedication to time getting to know yourself is really one of the most valuable things you can do, because without that relationship, without that being the most important relationship in your entire life, then I just don't see how anyone could really navigate correctly through the times that we're in. Without a solid connection to yourself, you will be always looking for validation outside of yourself, and unfortunately, the things waiting to validate you aren't the things that you really want to connect with. So that connection to self, knowing yourself really well, exploring your inner world, your universe inside of you. I 100% know the more we get to know ourselves, the more actual truth that we know about ourselves and what makes us feel good and alive, then the more we can literally start seeing through the bullshit, like so quickly it's unbelievable. We all have the ability to have the highest, amazing, and efficient bullshit meter ever, but unfortunately, if we're bullshitting ourselves, our bullshit meter doesn't work. So uncovering the truth of yourself allows you to really just finely tune this incredible system that you have in your body that allows you to feel the truth in everything, your GPS. But for the GPS to work properly, you have to first pull off, a lot of the mass and all the shit on top of that GPS, stopping it from working properly. And the biggest thing is learning to recognize your own bullshit, learning to recognize your own lies. It's so incredible how we can lie to ourselves. We can actually lie to ourselves to the point where we don't even know what we're doing. And sometimes it takes somebody else to call you out on that bullshit in order for you to actually see your own bullshit. It's mind-blowing. So, dedication to knowing yourself really is the most important thing ever to do while you're on this planet right now. Dedicate yourself to knowing yourself, so that way you know that you can navigate through anything, because you know yourself, you have everything you need to navigate in the dark. The results in a person. So the results in a person is basically their awakening process is suppressed and their true path and purpose hidden just out of view while connected to the fake white light. These people may appear to be very spiritual, but will be lacking real connection with themselves and the universe. They may even appear to be happy, but that will be fake inserts keeping them at a certain level of happiness so they stay satisfied with the arrangement and don't go looking outside the box where the truth really lies. So unfortunately, the people who are really caught in the fake white light webbing, if they are really dedicated to the fake white light, they will also have holographic inserts and stuff like that. So this basically means that they could have a program of happiness put in. So they may feel and they might appear to be happy, but the happiness that they're receiving is only based on connection to the fake white light. It's not due to their connection to themselves. So people who have these types of programs running in them, they are happy, but they're only happy because they're connected to something that is feeding them in order to drain them. They're not happy because of their connection to their own truth and their own inner being. Some people can only be 50% invested into the fake white light, or they could be 100% invested. And this is usually when they start spreading the fake white light information to guide others to connect with it through fake white light beings and other techniques. So I find a lot of the time most people aren't 100% connected to the fake white light. I find a lot of people can actually only be connected like 30%. Most normal people, average person, isn't 100% invested in the fake white light. They're still very third dimensional and they're still very invested in the third dimensional sort of realm. So they're only 20 to 30% invested in the fake white light. Sometimes you'll find someone who's invested around 50%, and that's when they're, you can kind of see that they're, if they're connected 50%, they will look like they're doing quite well spiritually. They usually do the right things as far as they'll be doing yoga, they'll be vegan, they will be doing their mantras, they'll be doing their, prayer, their journaling, they'll have their prayer flags, they'll have, they'll have all the bits and pieces once they're invested at 50% or more. But when they get to 100% invested, this is when they start actually being a channel for the fake white light beings that they're connected to. So this is when they might start channeling the Ascended Masters or someone like Saint Germain or someone that is, unfortunately, those types of things can be used as fake white light. So it's very, very important to not get attached to a particular name or entity as far as, Saint Germain or the Ascended Masters. It's very important to understand that if you're going to, if you do want to connect to certain entities, that you first command them to be in front of you and then command them under universal law to tell you the truth if they come from organic white light or if they are from the light or if they're from fake white light. You have to be able to really talk to these beings if you want to connect with them. You need to find out first, the ones that you're talking to, are they fake white light or are they real light? And this has to be done every single time, because one time you might be talking to the real whoever that you want to connect with, and the next time you might be talking to the fake white light version of them. So you can see that it's really freaking important to be able to know who you're talking to before you start calling on anybody to come connect with you. And I personally don't recommend calling on anybody unless you're freaking certain, you're really certain that that's the right thing for you. And it's not just some freaking thing that you've been told about or you've read about or that everybody's doing, because that's the shit. That's the fake white light webbing. So you've really got to have your discernment and know yourself before you start just calling on anything or everything just because people tell you it's the thing to do or the person to call on. Discernment is everything right now. Use it wisely. Lifespan. I have never found this to be a past life issue, only present life issue. I don't feel like this would be able to hide in a reading, so you should be able to pick it up if it's happening. So like I said, I've only ever found it to be a present life issue. I've never found it to be a past life issue. And I'm pretty sure it won't hide. I've never found it hard to pick up. I don't think I've ever had it like hiding on me and have to go looking for. So I'm pretty certain that if it's there, you will find it in the reading. So it's more about when this sort of stuff comes up, you might want to be really discerning on how you talk to the person about this, or even if you do bring it up in this particular way, it depends on who they are and how invested they are. So if there's somebody who's invested 100%, the chances are they're not going to be able to handle the truth of this. So you should be able to gauge what information that is best for them, because every single body is different. And to be a really, really good practitioner, you need to be able to gauge what people are ready for and push them just to that level. We don't want to push them further because we don't want to bend their brains so they end up with schisms. We want to be able to take them to the point that they can handle and just give them that much. Because if we don't scare the frick out of them, they're going to be able to lean into the information more, and leaning into the information allows them to integrate and embody it better and be able to make better choices. If we take them beyond their point and we brain schism them, they're going to naturally reject the information, and it's not going to be something that's going to be good for them as far as integrating anything that you've done. So it's really important to be able to understand where people are, and you're empathic anyway. And if you're working in this way, I know you have the ability. Don't be afraid of it. Just have conversations, or just ask while you're in there. Is this something I tell them? Is this something that I tell them? Is this something that I tell them? Like sometimes I'm not sure and I'll say, do I present this? And I'll be said no. Sometimes I'm shown no. And then sometimes I'm told, yes, you need to tell them this. Now you got to remember that if you're doing this, that you can't hide information just because you're afraid of talking about it. You have to really gauge what's good for them. It's not about what's good for you. You might, when I had to tell people that I did find a possession, finding a possession in someone and having someone face to face, I'd have to, and I would always be afraid of saying that, because I was always afraid that they would say, what? Like, I'm not possessed. But it never happened to me. Every single time they would say, oh my God, that makes sense. So it's really important to get out of your own fear and only do what's good for the client, and push yourself, beyond your own fear when it comes to presenting things, if it's in the client's highest good. So like any of the other subjects we're talking about, I could speak for hours and hours about every single subject, but at the end of the day, I wanted to give you just little blueprints for you to work with. I know that by having a frame of reference like this and literally being able to use that to kind of have a look around, you'll start to see more and more evidence of this. And I know when you're working with people one-on-one, you'll start to see more and more sort of results showing up, and you'll get more evidence to support, I knew that could be part of it, and I could see that, and you'll start to get more and more pieces of the puzzle, and you'll have your own kind of idea and map, kind of coming out in front of you. There's so many ways this can play out, and together, by talking about it in the forum, we can really help each other not get trapped in them, and also really understand how intricate this webbing is. So we can really help people, be empowered and educated so they can navigate this sort of shit as well. Because once we know this, then we know how to educate people better.